Hi, I'm John Zimkus, and this is the City Show. We've been gone for a few weeks, but we're so happy to be back. And what better thing to talk about on the City Show than the city? And we have City Manager Scott Brunka with us. And how is the city doing, Scott?
The city's doing great. I know there's a lot of different topics that we're going to want to cover today. But there's a lot going on, as I think most folks notice as they drive throughout our community. But I would say we're in a very strong position in a number of ways, financially, and then obviously working on some quality of life improvements within our community as well. So we're doing well.
Is the city growing?
We are, and I get asked that question a lot because I think folks see a lot of the activity and you kind of translate that into booming population growth. And if you look at the numbers over really the last 10 years, the growth of the city's been slow and steady. So if you kind of look at the population trends, Lebanon's been growing by less than 1% a year over the last 10 years. So we've seen some growth, but it's certainly what I would consider manageable growth. We do have quite a few residential projects, development projects that are now in the construction phase. So I do think you're going to see an uptick in that population growth in Lebanon over the next 5-10 years. But when you look at our planning documents and our comprehensive plan, I certainly expect Lebanon, when it kind of reaches that full build-out mode, to still be a community that's less than 30,000 people. So we're about 21,600 population right now. Yes, we're definitely going to grow, but we're not going to become a city of 40, 50,000 or anything like that. The population growth has been slow and steady, but our tax-based growth has increased significantly. And that's, obviously for the city and our police services and our roadway improvement program, that tax-based growth is very important to us and something that we certainly focus on as well.
Now, the assessed value of houses has gone up, hasn't it?
Correct. So over the last 4 or 5 years, that number has increased by 20%. And that's certainly a reflection of a couple things: new development, new investment, both residential and commercial business investment. And then I think we also all know, the revaluations and kind of what impact that's had on kind of the total property value within the city. So that has increased certainly, much steeper than our population increase.
What kind of projects are going on as far as residential?
Residential, we have quite a few. So the big project is what's called Parkside Development, which is off of State Route 63 as you're kind of heading towards Monroe on the north side. So that, that development's about 270 acres. And they're in the process of really over the last year putting the infrastructure in for the first few phases of that development. So utilities are in, roads are in, and they're going to start building homes this summer out there. But like I said, it's a mixed use development, and that's one of the city's goals when we talk about housing, is to really encourage all different types of housing for our community. So there's obviously higher end single family homes that are going to get built. There's more kind of middle income homes. There are apartments as part of the development. There's an assisted living facility in the development, as well as some senior focused housing. So the thought is to kind of touch on all those different areas of the housing market, and that project is definitely moving along. That's kind of probably our best mixed use development example. On either end of the spectrum, there's new apartments that are under construction behind Walmart, and they anticipate beginning to lease those out this summer.
How would they access that?
So you actually, go down Walmart Drive, and where it dead ends right now, it's an extension of that road, and you can see the buildings getting built right now. On the other end of the spectrum, we have what's called the Acres, which is a residential development on the south end of Lebanon. And those are $1 to $2 million homes. So that's larger lot estate type housing. So that, like I said, has been a goal of the cities to encourage different types of housing products. And I think we've been successful in doing that.
On the Acres, that's off of, was it Mason, Morrow, Millgrove Road?
Right.
Now, I didn't realize until I actually over the weekend looked at a map, but on I-71 between exit 28, which is 48, and 25, which was at Kings Island, about 3/4 of that on the west side is Lebanon.
There is a significant parcel that's in the city, and we're certainly looking to attract business investment on that parcel. And the Acres is where we actually touch the city of Mason. So, that the Acres development's in the city, and immediately adjacent to it is an existing residential development that's in the city of Mason. So we've definitely kind of grown together on the southern end of the city.
Now, there's going to be some houses off of Franklin Road?
Yes, those are under construction right now as well. Drees Development is doing that project. It's called Toll House Farms. And that's kind of more your classic single family type development. Home prices are going to be in the $700,000 to $800,000 range. And they will be, they've got the road in for the first phase, utility infrastructure in, and they will be building homes out there as well.
Where in Franklin Road will that be?
So it's kind of, you've got the Turtle Creek Township Administration building. It's kind of right across from there.
Oh, okay.
So as you're driving out, you'll see it on the left. Again, that's kind of pushing up against that western boundary of the city. So there's that. We've got a townhome project on North Mechanic Street, which is, again, going to be a different type of housing product. A lot of people, want to live in or near downtown Lebanon. But certainly some of those folks don't want to have a 100-year-old home. So it'd be kind of nice to add new housing product that's walkable to downtown Lebanon. So that project's underway.
No, that's part of the expanding of North Broadway.
Correct.
So we have the two restaurants, and we have other businesses, and all those condos and apartments back there.
Yes. That's been, we call it kind of the North Broadway corridor. That's been a focus area for the city for a number of years now, to really just kind of revitalize that area. And you've seen quite a bit of private investment, public investment as well. Obviously, our new fire station was constructed up there. We just put in pickleball courts last year. So that's a direct focus area that came out of the comprehensive plan as a way to kind of extend, that downtown Lebanon feel up the North Broadway corridor. And part of that's providing new housing opportunities for folks who want to be part of downtown Lebanon.
Any new industrial development?
We do. We've had a couple of significant expansions within our business park. Probably the most significant is Cyrus One. So Cyrus One, they're kind of in the data center, data storage business, and they are in the process of a $90 million facility expansion. That's going to be a great project for the city. Obviously, when we talk about development and expansion, anytime you can see business growth that doesn't necessarily add new students to a school district or put a lot of strain on the existing roadway structure, that's a win. So as you drive down Kingsview Drive, you'll see just a mass of construction equipment and construction activity. And so that's probably our largest business expansion project that's underway right now.
Now, how does that benefit the city? I mean, is more tax money?
Absolutely. So, the city, when we look at business recruitment, we're really focused on usually focused on income tax jobs. So that's the income tax revenue is our primary source of revenue for our police department, for our parks department, for our kind of roadway resurfacing operation. What's interesting with these data centers is they don't create a lot of jobs. It's just not, it's obviously automated and servers and a lot of equipment. However, because the city owns our own electric utility, we get what's called the kilowatt hour tax revenue generated from the sale of power to our residents and our businesses. So data centers are a huge consumer of electricity, which means they generate quite a bit of this kilowatt hour tax revenue that the city can then use to fund police officers and other general fund type services. So for us, the Cyrus One expansion is going to equate to, roughly $250,000 to $300,000 a year in additional kilowatt hour tax revenue that we can use to provide services to our residents. So definitely has a positive financial impact for the city. If you're a city that doesn't have your own electric utility, it may not be as as advantageous, but for Lebanon it is.
Well, but that brings us to our electric facility. There is a comparison to Hamilton and other cities, and we come off pretty well, don't we?
Our electric rates are extremely competitive. If you look at our electric rates compared to Duke Energy or AES or other municipal electric providers like the City of Hamilton, we're below all of those. And it tends to average about at least 25% or more below those comparable rates. So that's important to us. When we talk about electric rates and our charges, we want to be competitive both for our residents and for our businesses. And I think we've been able to be competitive because we've been very strategic on our electric utility, making sure when we acquire power or go out to market to buy power that we're not kind of putting all of our eggs in one basket in terms of where we're getting it from. An example of that is the solar arrays that we completed late last year that they're now generating power, and that's really an opportunity for the city to generate some of our own electric power to meet our community's needs, and that's power then that we don't have to go out onto the open market and purchase. The open market, you can see some wild fluctuation in pricing, so it kind of generates a little bit of stability. And kind of gets us a little bit more self-reliant on that as well.
What percent will that help us?
It's a small percentage of our total load. So if you think about during the heat of the summer, kind of a peak power consumption day, our peak is over 70 megawatts. The solar arrays are going to generate 9 to 10 megawatts at peak. So it's again kind of diversifying our sources. We're not completely reliant on it, but it also kind of helps spread us out a little bit, especially during our peak generation days.
Now, some people may look at those panels and wonder, is that the best use for the land?
Right.
How is it? Was the land usable beyond that, or is it? It's in a floodplain, isn't it?
Yeah. So it was all city-owned land. So it's land that we already owned. And it's all in the floodplain. So from a development standpoint, definitely was going to be limited in what type of, development or buildings could get built on that. So yeah, I think that's kind of why we had targeted that as, okay, if we're going to do solar arrays, this is really the place to do it. And then, once we kind of, looked at what locations might be viable, we went into a pretty in-depth feasibility study. So then the question becomes, well, does this make financial sense for the city? It's not something that we were going to do unless it made financial sense for the city and for our ratepayers. And, the study came back over the course of the useful life of these assets. It's going to generate over $25 million in savings to our ratepayers. So that's significant. So again, it is going to help keep our utility rates down. It gets us a little bit more reliant on generating our own power. We felt like it was a good use of the land that we already owned.
Now, the city, trying to save money for the taxpayer, works very hard in getting grants, doesn't it?
Right.
What kind of grants have we picked up?
Yeah, we focus very hard on roadway grants, construction grants, and then parks and trail grants. So, we're averaging, probably around $6 million a year in grant revenue coming into our operating budget. So our operating budget is in excess of $120 million a year now. So we're pretty complex organization. And we're on average, successfully getting around $6 million a year in grant revenue. So if you see a bike trail project, there's a grant behind it. I guarantee it. I get asked that a lot. A lot of our major road projects are also grant supported, partially grant supported. And it's something that I think our staff does an excellent job of really identifying these opportunities and going out and securing the grants. So primarily roadway and trails are the two.
Now, roadway, I mean, for the last couple of years, 42, 48, and others have had some work done. Is that going to be expanded this year?
Yes, we're going to have another busy year. We're investing around $10 million in our roadway program this year. The big project's going to be North Broadway. So we're actually opening bids this Friday for that project. That's going to include the installation of a new water main up Broadway, kind of from roughly the fire station all the way up to Miller Road. But it'll also then include eliminating the bike lane and building a separate bike path that'll be kind of behind the curb. So if you kind of think about in front of the Countryside subdivision on Deerfield Road, kind of how that bike path looks there, that's going to be, I think, what you're going to see, or that is what you're going to see on North Broadway when it's all said and done. The bike lane goes away. North Broadway will stay 3 lanes though. So the curb's going to get kind of moved in to where the bike lane is. ODOT is providing over $1 million in safety funds to help support the project with the requirement that Broadway stay 3 lanes with an additional lane up by the fairgrounds entrance to kind of accommodate traffic there. But from a safety standpoint, they felt like that was important. And just based on traffic volumes, that was what's warranted. And then when that's all done, it'll come in and it'll get resurfaced. So kind of what you've seen on Main Street over the last couple of years will happen going up Broadway. So all in, it's $5 million plus project. There is, again, grant funding involved for that, and should be a really nice, when it's all said and done. Should be great. Broadway's going to stay open. I get asked that. Well, is it going to shut down Broadway? No. They'll have to maintain traffic throughout the construction cycle. And make sure it doesn't affect the fair, obviously, during Fair Week.
Now, will they be 2 grants involved in that? One for the trail and one for the road?
There's actually 3 grants. That's kind of how that's a good example of piecing things together. So there's an actual congressional grant through HUD that we got to help offset the bike path costs. There's an Ohio Public Works Commission grant, which is kind of a state level grant. And then there's an ODOT grant. So this project is probably the first one where we've had 3 different grant sources at play. But that's kind of how we, we try to identify opportunities and try to go after them as best we can.
Do you have a grant writing department in the city building?
We don't have, no, it's kind of spread out. A lot of different people do it based on what the project is and what the need is. So it's a team effort.
Now, speaking of bike trails, what other bike trails are going to be worked on?
So there's that, and then there's what we call the Bowman Trail. The Bowman Trail is going to be a new trail that kind of connects to the existing Lebanon Countryside Trail by the Armory. and then it's going to kind of go up, cross Main Street, and go behind the Colony Square Shopping Center on city-owned land back there, and then extend north up to Monroe Road.
Up on the ridge there,
Up
right?
on the ridge, yeah. The city owns all of that land. Part of it we bought with the grant a few years ago. Another part of that property we've owned for a number of years. So the Bowman Trail is going to start kind of creating a loop around the city for a trail system. And then, once it gets up to Monroe Road in the future, then the goal is to extend the trail all the way down Monroe Road and actually get into Broadway, where we connect to the Broadway Trail over there. That's an example. That project has 2 grants. Again, we have a state and a federal grant to help pay for the construction of that.
Now that technically is another rails to trails.
Correct.
Because there was a railroad connecting us to Dayton up on that ridge.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's something the city's owned for a number of years, and so kind of provides the basis to run a trail up there.
And the name Bowman comes from a veterinarian. I was trying to think of what his first name is. It was always Doc Bowman.
Right.
But the bypass goes through his property, and so he had land on both sides of the bypass at one time.
Yeah, so the city years ago named part of that property the Bowman Preserve, and it hasn't been accessible to the public at all. So this is going to be nice because it actually is going to provide a way for the public to enjoy it.
Now, Gloucester Road on many different levels is going to get a complete makeover, right?
Right. Gloucester Road from Main Street down to US 42 or Cincinnati Avenue. That's going to be widened to 3 lanes. And then the intersection of Cincinnati Avenue and Gloucester is going to have a roundabout built. So that project's going to get bid out later this year. We're waiting for Duke Energy to relocate some transmission poles before we can kind of start construction on it. But that's going to be another significant project that, again, you'll see move into construction this year. It'll go into next year as well. But Gloucester Road and Cincinnati Avenue, one of our key safety areas. A lot of accidents, and they tend to be pretty severe accidents. There's a sight distance problem there.
Yeah.
So the roundabout solution was identified as a preferred alternative to address that, and so that'll be Lebanon's first roundabout that'll kind of move into construction this year. And then we're also in the engineering phase to widen State Route 63, so West Main Street, widen that to 3 lanes, kind of from Neil Armstrong Way out to the Parkside development. And that includes the intersection of State Route 63 and Marquis Road. And we're also looking at doing a roundabout at that location as well, both to kind of keep traffic flowing, but also to calm traffic down as you're coming into Lebanon.
Looking at, I knew the general area where Parkside's going to be, but it wasn't until recently. It's up the hill, right?
Oh yeah.
So it's not hugging the city as we know it today, but it is part on city land, and it is up there.
Yeah. It's in the city. The city, when we talk about, where the city is going to grow in the future, I think we'll grow a little bit farther west beyond Parkside, but not much because we're almost up against the Union Village development with Otterbein. And then I think, there's going to be opportunities for the city to grow to the north, kind of north of Miller Road. But again, it's all part of our comprehensive plan. I encourage people to go on our website and read the comprehensive plan. A lot of good information in there.
How about retail development?
Tractor Supply has been a big win for us. So that went into the old Kroger's building on Columbus Avenue. That had really kind of been, in terms of kind of vacant commercial space, our Achilles heel is that building. So Tractor Supply just had their grand opening a few weeks ago, and they've done a fabulous job. And there's still a little bit of that building that's unleased, but they've got a significant portion of it. So we're excited to see them come to our community. Dunkin' is now open on East Main Street. So, again, we're getting to the point where it's economically makes sense, for redevelopment scenarios where folks are kind of coming in. If there's an old building or something that's kind of, run down, if you will, tearing it down and building new. So, some of these projects is, kind of good to revitalize these commercial corridors, that have seen some age. East Main Street, Columbus Avenue, it's kind of a mix of buildings there. And, so we're very focused on trying to encourage redevelopment within these existing commercial corridors, as opposed to just greenfield development. The greenfield development, frankly, is the easier part of it.
Yeah.
It's getting, getting some of these redevelopment efforts to use existing buildings or existing space that we're very focused on.
Now, what's Wawa like?
Wawa, that's another one. Thank you for reminding me of that one. So they're under the site development phase. Wawa is kind of an East Coast convenience store, but they also have sandwiches and food. And I think the first one just opened up in Butler County, or they're in the area, so they're kind of new to Ohio. But there's one coming to Lebanon there at the intersection of Bypass 48 and Kingsview Drive.
Okay.
And so I don't know when they're planning on opening. They've started construction. Major investment. I mean, they had to add a turn lane off of Bypass 48. Yeah. So, making a major investment in the site. So yeah, they're coming in. We've got a new kind of Lebanon Christian Academies building kind of a new gym, indoor basketball facility.
Is that off of Deerfield?
That's off of Main Street. So kind of by Art and Stone, the monument company there. You'll see a building under construction. So that's a new facility that they're building. And we're when you look at some of these redevelopment scenarios, not so much the tear down, build new, and definitely not the greenfield development, but renovation type projects. So Rome Jewelers downtown, or some of those projects. The city actually has a small business development grant where we provide matching funds up to $10,000 to help offset those expenses. So again, it's very aligned with our goal of promoting small business in our community. I think we feel like that's kind of the heartbeat of our town. And so the city has activated for a number of years a grant program just to try to help small business owners make improvements to their facade, make improvements to the building itself. And it's been successful. We've had a lot of folks take advantage of that.
And practically everybody in any business in town can take advantage.
It is, yeah. It is not just for downtown. So it is for any business, any property, and you can be a tenant, you can be the property owner, but it's available to all businesses in our community. And I'm sure we've had over 20 businesses over the years take advantage of it. And,
how long have we been doing this project?
We've had the Small Business Development Grant. It's been, I'm going to say, at least 5 years. So it's been a number of years now, and it's part of our annual city budget. And we're always glad to spend that money and make that investment in our community.
How's the police and fire department doing?
So let me start with fire. First of all, we're very appreciative of the community approving the income tax increase a little over a year ago. That really allowed us to get the fire department to full-time staffing. That was a huge step for our community. We spent pretty much all of last year hiring full-time staff. So. It was a process, but I'm pleased to announce we're fully staffed at this point, and we're really off of the part-time model that we had been operating under up to this point. So that's been great for the department, not only in providing quality, good emergency services to our residents, but also then we now have a fire inspector that can work with the business community and make sure that we're addressing proactively fire hazards. things that we had wanted to do for a number of years and just really hadn't had the staffing and the ability to do. So it's great. They're getting busier. So as you can imagine, especially EMS calls. I mean, fire calls have been, relatively steady, but the EMS calls continue to increase every year, and that's the core, the bulk of what they do for sure. But yeah, they're doing well. That's an example. And give a shout out to the fire chief. He went out and secured a $350,000 grant to help buy an ambulance. So, we're trying to be good stewards of the taxpayer dollars that are directed to us.
Well, that hybrid of income tax and property tax, really a lot of people save money with that system, one way or the other. Is that something that the city came up with, or is that a model that's been used elsewhere?
Yeah, we kind of came up with that. Yeah. So there's not a whole lot of, it's a little bit unique, but I think it worked for us.
Yes.
So, and obviously the state's talking a lot about property taxes and how to take some of that pressure off. I feel like we were a little bit ahead of the curve with that. But again, it's a good combination, and it has worked out well, I think, for our department and for our community. But yeah, it was kind of an idea that we had internally came up with, and at the end of the day, the voters get to decide whether or not they think it's a a good idea.
Well, you and the chief have been on several times talking about it, because there was two parts to it. You got a part. What did we vote on first? The property, and then later on the income, or one or the other?
Yeah, the legislation, it was definitely connected, but ultimately the income tax increase had to happen first.
Okay.
And then if that got approved, the way we structured the ballot language, the county auditor was instructed to automatically reduce the property taxes by 3 mills. And then in the spring, we had to do a renewal on that millage. So it was a multi-step process, but we wanted to be very clear to the voters that when you're voting to increase for the 0.5% income tax increase, when you're voting, you're directing the city to automatically reduce that property tax, so that there was no there was no doubt that it was going to happen.
Well, kudos to the city, the citizens of Lebanon, and also to the city to explain this somewhat complicated.
It was complicated, and it was definitely scenarios where some residents through this process were voting on a net tax decrease for them. And so, and especially if you were on a fixed income and more, impacted by property taxes, but not income taxes, it was a good way to reduce your tax, your overall taxes. So, yeah.
How's the police department doing?
Good. Yeah, they're also busy. Their calls for service have increased significantly. Excuse me. Part of that's I think they're able to get a little bit more proactive in their policing. So, we've added police officers over the last couple of years. Again, as a growing community, we want to make sure we're not neglecting our services, and especially our core services of public safety and road maintenance. So, they are busy. They just got reaccredited through CALIA, which is a national law enforcement accreditation program, and that's a big deal for us because we take a lot of pride in that.
Now, is that the one where there's only one other place in Ohio that has that accreditation?
We were the second, so we were actually the second community in Ohio. There's several now, but we were one of the kind of forerunners of that national accreditation process, and something we're very proud of.
Yeah. Scott, is there anything else we need to tell the viewers about how Lebanon is doing?
Oh, I think new performance stage getting constructed in Bicentennial Park. So we're excited about that. And as you drive by Bicentennial Park there off from Mulberry Street, you'll see the construction site. So again, investing in our downtown, making it a great place for the community to kind of gather and enjoy Lebanon. We got a full range of community events coming up again this year. So looking forward to the nicer weather, getting outside a little bit.
Plus, there's 3 events which are not our normal festivals coming up.
Yeah, what we're trying to do is the city, we've booked some, kind of some entertainment acts for the new stage. And they're not a festival, but it's just a way for the community to come out, enjoy some music, and hopefully eat downtown, support some of the local restaurants, and just, kind of make an evening of it. So there's a Jimmy Buffett cover band that's going to be playing in mid-May. I think it's May 17th to kind of kick off the new stage. So that should be great.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Now that's going to be done, finished fairly soon, right?
Should be done in about a month and a half. So mid-April is their completion date, and they're on track with that. So that's exciting.
Yes, well, there's so many neat things happening in Lebanon, and I'm glad we are progressing and moving ahead and finding new ways to save money, but yet get a project done.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, anything else, Scott? Is that covered?
I think you've got your list there.
Yeah.
Did we miss anything?
I don't think so.
Geez, I think we hit most of it. So, no, I think that's it. Just very appreciative of the community and the support of the community, and look forward to another great year.
Well, thanks again, Scott, for coming, as you do every year, to explain how the city's doing, and it sounds like we're doing pretty good.
Lot going on.
Okay. Well, thanks for watching, and you take care, and I'll see you around town.